Thank you, Chairwoman Schakowsky. Thank you for your leadership in holding this hearing. Thank you, Ranking Member Kathy McMorris-Rogers, for your leadership in holding this important hearing. And I want to thank my co-sponsor and the author of this legislation, Paul Tonko, for his leadership in striving towards reform of the horse industry in a way that will advance the safety, the integrity, and the international competitiveness of this sport. And as was indicated by the ranking member, I do have the privilege of representing the what is known as the horse capital of the world. My friend Mr. Tonko sometimes quibbles with that because New York is such a great racing state. But this is a beautiful sport. It has a rich heritage and history. And it has, in addition to being part of the fabric of our culture in New York and Florida and Maryland and California and Kentucky and other great states, it is a massive economic impact to our country and obviously to our states. And we need to preserve the safety of the equine athletes, the human athletes involved, and the integrity of the sport and the international competitiveness, both of our racing stock and our breeding stock, in order to continue to earn the public's confidence so that we can continue to have the jobs and economic activity that this rich sport and industry provides to so many of our constituents. Let me just take the opportunity I think the problem has been well laid out, the 38 different conflicting jurisdictions. Let me take the balance of my time to address some of the issues. I think that some of the recommendations by some of our witnesses who oppose the legislation make sense. I think we should listen to those recommendations, including Mr. Martin's view that we need to bring more of these horses under government supervision. That's what our bill would do. Mr. Drazen's point that we do have a public perception problem. He doesn't think that this will prevent breakdowns because he's focused on track maintenance. Track maintenance is an issue, but it's not the only issue, and uneven medication rules is a part of it, and covering up and masking the pain of the horse is a true issue. This will reduce breakdowns. I think sharing medical records, uniformity of track condition and maintenance standards makes sense. Certification of race track safety makes sense. The NTRS special committees make a lot of sense, and they're doing good work. But this idea that federal legislation is the wrong way to go, if you go back to the Jockey Club minutes from the 1970s and the 1980s when they were discussing medication reform, they were saying back then that we don't need federal legislation. The efforts to reform the industry by the industry itself, the efforts through interstate compacts have failed. Mr. Lear pointed that out. With respect to FTC oversight, I want to point out to the members considering this legislation that the architecture of this bill fully makes sure that we have industry representation, expertise that would go into the formulation and enforcement of the rules, especially and including veterinarians to inform the process. I would point out that the opponents of the legislation, Mr. Martin, Dr. Anderson, and Mr. Drazen, all indicated that they support uniformity that has not been achieved in 40 or 50 years of trying without Congress. I want to also point out something that has not been mentioned, and that is that handle drives this sport. We've seen a decline in handle, meaning that horse players and participants, wagerers, are losing interest in this sport. That is the lifeblood of this industry. It means bigger purses. We need to attract a new generation of fans that do have competition in terms of the entertainment dollar out there. The decline in handle is an indication that we need reform, and if we can attract a new generation of fans, that will drive purses, and that will be the solution for Monmouth Park, not just putting our head in the sand on this. International competitiveness. If you talk to participants in this sport in France and in the United Kingdom and in Dubai and in Japan and Australia where they have no race day medication, there is a reputation problem with our product. And coming from the breeding capital of the world where we sell yearlings, this reputational problem is a big deal, and international competitiveness can be repaired, and the sales can be repaired internationally if we have additional integrity. Finally, on the issue of Lasix, which admittedly is a controversial topic, Dr. Anderson indicated that there is only one therapeutic indication for Lasix or Salix, and that is EIPH. If you go to any major track in America today, if you're just a casual fan and you open up the daily racing form, it is pretty apparent that 90% or more of those entrants are on Lasix. I can tell you that 90% of those horses are not suffering from EIPH. So if the only therapeutic indication is EIPH, why are all the other competitors on Lasix? 4-hour administration is not necessarily required. There is a scientific debate about that, but the fact of the matter is, we heard the testimony from the rider expert here that obviously a lower weight horse has a performance enhancement advantage. And so why do trainers authorize third-party administration of Lasix to horses that don't have the problem? It's because it's performance enhancing. And thank you for the opportunity to participate, and I yield back.